Forget little green men. The real visitors are older, smarter, and they don't come in peace. Decades of evidence point not to one, but to four distinct alien civilizations that see Earth as one thing, a resource. Some created us to mine gold. Some seek to dominate the galaxy and see us as an obstacle. Some rule from deep underground, using our leaders as puppets, and others run a silent global abduction program, treating humans like lab animals. Their technology is beyond our understanding. Their ethics are not our own. This isn't about belief, it's about pattern recognition. And the pattern says we are not alone. We are owned. Possibly one of the most interesting questions is that how would advanced alien civilizations react to our society if we ever managed to contact with interstellar extraterrestrial beings, and what would their purpose be with humanity? Visitors originating from the stars are believed to have technology beyond our comprehension. Some of these alien species may want us to disappear from the universe as a species, but other beings might use their technology for good and possibly bring a new golden era for the human race. However, the same force could be used in order to totally and completely destroy our planet, or even to dominate the entire human race. After gathering all the different experiences and stories about alien sightings and abductions, as well as the historical evidence of space travelers and unexplained events, researchers have concluded that we are truly having visitors from beyond. It is possible that multiple races of extraterrestrial beings intend to establish contact with us. The motive that drives this great variety of visitors could be related to our sun being one of the closest stars in light years, which motivates the travelers of the universe to pass through our solar system in order to use the sun as a power source, while extraterrestrial species with less respectful purposes may be on the way to our planet. It is from this research that experts in extraterrestrial affairs have reached the conclusion that there are at least 4 extraterrestrial species with the potential to do us harm or even to enslave us. These 4 races were named as the Anunnaki, the Draconians, the Reptilians, and the Tall Greys. The Anunnaki. They are the beings that live on an unobservable planet called Planet X that several researchers speculate is in a very remote place of our solar system and is not be visible because it is extremely small to be detected. The most accepted present theory in relation to the purpose of the Anunnaki is gold. It is believed that they created the inhabitants of the Earth about 500,000 years ago with the purpose of extracting gold and other minerals. This could be the evidence of a complete and hard work in genetic science and in fecundation virtu. If this hypothesis is true, then they might visit Earth today, ruling or hindering humanity as they see fit. If this hypothesis is true, the implications are not only extraordinary, but also deeply unsettling, because it would mean that humanity was not originally designed as an end in itself, but as a means, an engineered workforce shaped to serve a material objective. The theory proposes that gold was not simply a luxury or a symbol of power for them, but a strategic substance, essential either for technology, survival, or for stabilizing some condition on their own world. In that sense, gold would not be a treasure in the human meaning of the word, but a necessity. The urgency of such a necessity is what, according to some interpretations, would justify to them the enormous effort of interplanetary travel, long-term planning, and biological engineering on a planetary scale. To understand why gold holds such central relevance in this narrative, theorists often point to its unusual properties, its resistance to corrosion, its conductivity, and its stability. These qualities make it valuable in high-precision instruments and advanced systems, and so under this framework, gold becomes more than a cultural obsession, it becomes a technical resource. The story then evolves into a scenario in which an advanced civilization, facing limitations in its own environment, sought a solution in the wider solar system. Planetary scarcity, ecological collapse, atmospheric degradation, or technological dependence are commonly proposed as motivations. In many retellings, the Anunnaki did not come to Earth because they desired conquest in the simple sense, but because Earth represented a mining reserve. an accessible storehouse of the material they required. The reference to an unobservable Planet X introduces another layer of mystery and debate. The theory suggests that this planet could occupy a distant orbit far beyond the usual visibility thresholds, and that it might be obscured by size, darkness, distance, or some unknown physical characteristic. This notion is sometimes reinforced by the argument that absence of evidence is not evidence of absence, especially when the outer solar system is vast and poorly mapped in comparison to the inner region. In this worldview, Planet X is not merely a speculative astronomical body. It is the home base, the origin point, and the reason behind a long arc of intervention in human development. If one accepts the premise that such beings exist, the next question becomes, why would they create humans rather than mine the gold themselves? The theory commonly answers this by suggesting that the work was too dangerous, too slow, or too inefficient for them to conduct directly over long periods. Another proposed explanation is social, that the Anunnaki had internal divisions, classes, hierarchies, perhaps even labor disputes, making it undesirable or politically difficult for them to commit their own population to manual extraction. In some interpretations, the creation of human beings solves a labor problem, replacing the need for their own workers with a species designed specifically for the task. In this way, the engineering of humanity becomes a technological workaround to an economic or social limitation within their own civilization. The phrase fecundation virto, though unusual, points to a broader concept: reproduction and development outside natural biological processes, as humans typically understand them. Under the hypothesis, the Anunnaki possessed advanced reproductive science, allowing them to manipulate genetics, guide gestation, and accelerate evolutionary outcomes. Rather than waiting for natural selection to produce a desired organism over millions of years, they could design one intentionally. This implies mastery not only of DNA-level programming, but also of embryology, neurology, immunity, endocrine regulation, and cognitive development. The theory portrays humanity not as a random result of nature, but as a carefully balanced construct, intelligent enough to follow instructions, physically capable of labor, emotionally manageable through social structures, and psychologically adaptable to authority. From this perspective, the earliest stages of human civilization are not merely primitive beginnings, but the controlled launching of a designed species into a self-sustaining loop. A workforce must reproduce itself, organize itself, and remain stable enough to continue functioning across generations. Thus, the theory often claims that early human societies were seeded with certain patterns: centralized leadership, ritual practices, symbolic obedience, and labor-based economies. These patterns, in this account, were not accidental. They were engineered social technologies, meant to stabilize the workforce and maintain productivity. A major component of the Anunnaki narrative is the idea that traces of their intervention survive in ancient stories, myths, and religious texts. Supporters of the hypothesis typically argue that ancient civilizations did not invent these stories randomly. Rather, they recorded extraordinary encounters using the symbolic language available at the time. What later generations call gods, angels, or heavenly beings are, in this model, misinterpreted descriptions of advanced visitors. The descent from the sky, the chariots of fire, the voices from above, and the divine commands become interpreted as culturally translated accounts of contact. This line of reasoning does not rely on one single document, but on the repetition of certain motifs across cultures: beings arriving from the heavens, imparting knowledge, demanding tribute, establishing kings, and shaping human fate. If the Anunnaki did create humanity for resource extraction, it would also imply that human development was not left entirely to chance. A mining operation requires infrastructure, tool-making, organization, transportation, storage, and systematized labor. Therefore, in many versions of the theory, the rapid emergence of early architecture and organized cities is seen not as a miracle of human ingenuity alone, but as a guided process. Temples, massive stone structures, and early administrative systems are sometimes framed as remnants of a supervised labor economy. Under this interpretation, monuments are not merely cultural expressions, they are logistical footprints. However, the hypothesis goes further than ancient history. It does not remain in the past. The most provocative part is precisely the suggestion that they might visit Earth today, ruling or hindering humanity as they see fit. This implies ongoing involvement, and it raises the question of how such involvement would manifest in a modern world full of satellites, science, and global communication. Those who extend the theory into the present often propose subtlety rather than open domination. Instead of arriving in obvious fleets, they would operate through influence, shaping systems of power, directing priorities, steering economies, and controlling access to resources. In that framework, ruling does not necessarily mean sitting on thrones. It can mean shaping the conditions in which humans make decisions, ensuring that humanity's trajectory remains compatible with Anunnaki interests. Hindering might involve preventing certain technological breakthroughs, discouraging unity, fueling conflicts that fragment cooperation, or guiding humanity into patterns that keep it dependent and manageable. The theory often claims that a divided species is easier to control than a unified one, and that confusion, competition, and fear create predictable behavior. Under this model, humanity may not be enslaved in chains, but trapped in cycles, economic cycles, ideological cycles, technological cycles that keep it from reaching the kind of maturity that would threaten external overseers. Another frequently discussed dimension is the idea of selective contact. If these beings existed, they would not necessarily interact with all humans equally. They might engage only with key individuals, groups, or institutions, those capable of implementing large-scale decisions. This could be interpreted as the origin of secret traditions, restricted knowledge systems, or elite control structures. In the modern context, some versions of the hypothesis propose that contact would occur through covert diplomacy rather than public revelation. The logic presented is simple. Open contact would disrupt the workforce. It could cause panic, rebellion, or unpredictable social collapse. If the objective is long-term stability, secrecy becomes rational. The gold theory itself is sometimes expanded into broader resource extraction. Gold may be central, but Earth holds many minerals and materials that could be valuable to a technologically advanced civilization. Rare earth elements, isotopes, crystalline structures, or biological compounds. The mention of other minerals suggests a broader agenda, and some interpretations claim that gold is merely the symbol around which the story is told, while the true objective might be a complex set of resources. Under this view, gold is both literal and metaphorical. Literal as a material, metaphorical as a sign of extraction and control. If one continues this line of speculation, the next question becomes, why allow human civilization to develop as it has? Why permit art, science, religion, and freedom at all? One proposed answer is that a self-improving species becomes more productive. A workforce that invents better tools will mine more efficiently. Over centuries, humans developed metallurgy, engineering, transportation, and computation. Even if humanity was not consciously aware of an external agenda, its progress could still serve that agenda indirectly. The theory thus frames human advancement as both genuine and exploited. Humans invent out of curiosity and need, but their inventions may also feed a system of extraction that benefits others. This leads to a darker possibility that certain pushes in human history, industrialization, global trade, technological acceleration, could be interpreted as nudges toward higher productivity. The mining of Earth is no longer performed with primitive tools. It is performed through global industry. If the original objective was extraction, modern civilization is extraction at a scale beyond anything ancient societies could achieve. In this reading, humanity unknowingly fulfilled the purpose embedded in its design by building a world where minerals are extracted continuously, processed, traded, and concentrated. The mechanisms of modern economics become, in this narrative, the evolved form of the original mining operation. At the same time, the theory often includes an internal contradiction. If the Anunnaki wanted only resources, why give humans intelligence and self-awareness strong enough to resist? The usual answer is that intelligence was necessary for complex tasks, problem-solving, and adaptation, and that the creators underestimated the long-term consequences. Another